It's 6 o'clock. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. First item will be roll call.
Brown,
Here.
Trump, Davis, Turkey,
Here.
Grace,
Here.
Yeah.
Here. Next item will be pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everyone can take a moment of silence. Wherever comfortable. So, take a motion to approve the agenda. Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Everyone's had a chance to look over previous meetings minutes. If there are no additions or corrections, they'll stand approved as presented. We have one visitor, Faith Bemis. There was no public comment sent in. Should move on to the officer's report, chief's report.
I have a verbal report for you guys tonight. I'm sorry, it's been an awfully busy week. Not a whole lot to report, but I'll start with the hardest part. For those of you who may or may not have heard, Frank Foster, our attorney, passed away suddenly. I'm trying to think what date it was. It was about a week ago. We got that news through just about every statewide organization, put it out there because his influence was that far reaching. Just a couple words about Mr. Foster. He was with us from the beginning, helped us through some pretty dark times here at PCAD, helped me out personally when I became involved with the administrator position. I quite frankly couldn't have done it without it. He's been a big help to us all along. The 190 statute that covers EMS, Frank pretty much had a part in just about every little nuance of it. And I think that the loss to the EMS community is enormous in that regard, especially Frank always used one of my favorite phrases when we're talking about legislation, which was the spirit of the law, because anybody can look up 190. Frank can tell you how it got there. So we lost that resource. I did want to thank Ryan in the process of mentioning this to you guys, because Ryan meticulously archived all of the communications we've ever had with Frank Foster that were in writing anyways. So we do have that on file. So I say I've got Frank on hard drive now, and he would find the humor in that, certainly. So he's been around forever. He used to work with, for those of you who might remember, Frank Mitchell, name was on the side of the building at the University of Missouri. He's kind of the father of EMS in the state. Frank Mitchell and Frank Foster both are the ones who got things going from back in the post-white paper era to, throwing people in the back of our hearse to our modern EMS system in the state, which is, helicopters, ground services, and paramedics integrating into different aspects of healthcare. Both of them are very much responsible for that. Gonna miss Frank. So I wanted to let the board know about that. The nuts and bolts are, he had a partner that he had taken on a few years ago named Frank Flash Polar, FLASHPOHLER. It's my understanding, and we got a short note from Frank Flash Polar saying that he's definitely going to honor Frank's account, so we don't have to put anybody else on retainer right now. Frank had been working with Frank for quite some time, and undoubtedly picked up a lot of his information. We'll never replace Foster, but we do have an attorney for that kind of use if we need him right now. Frank, I think Flash Polar was doing a lot of the litigation type affairs for Mr. Foster, who was more focused on obviously the legislative type stuff. But nonetheless, we do have a resource there, as well as all of the communications that we've had from Frank over the years. Chances are If you have a legal question, especially about 190 or some sort of statutory question, I've probably got the answer to it on that hard drive somewhere. So, like I said, wanted to give the board that unfortunate news. I'm certainly going to miss him, and I'll move on from that. He's got an obituary. I'm pretty sure I forwarded it out to the board via email, but if anybody wants to know anything more about that, I'd be glad to talk to him. There was no public service. The family did a very private service, and I think he'll be memorialized or honored at the next larger meeting of Missouri Ambulance Associations or one of the larger organizations, MEMSA or something like that. So we are planning on doing something for him, but there was not an official service for him or his wife, who passed away a couple years ago. So, all right, I'm going to turn it over to Roy for just a minute or two. We do not have all of the numbers compiled. As you know, the fair just ended, so we're still getting information together as far as hard numbers, what types of patients and whatnot. But I'll let Roy tell you a little bit about how the fair went, if you got anything ready.
Yeah, it was a good fair. It was really good to us. After that first weekend, call volume was pretty much nil for a couple of days anyway. I picked back up again on the weekend. I want to give you an estimated number of what I believe we ran. I believe we had about 100 to 120 patient contacts. We're still going through logs, trying to figure out all the calls and make sure everything matches up the way that it goes, but I haven't completed that yet, so I don't want to give firm numbers at all. Other than that, no big issues out there. Everybody did a great job. Really appreciate all the people from across the state that came and volunteered to give them coverage, because we certainly could not do that on our own. Other than that, anybody have questions about anything out there?
Thank you. I ran into a couple of the crews out there. Generally, when you run into one out there, you run into 10, and they all seem like a really cohesive group. They were all having a good time. Sound like they had a good fair. Just some other items. We've been in contact with Bothwell. I'm not making any official announcement on this because we don't have any dates or anything planned. So we're very early in the planning stages of what Bothwell, I think, is calling a TCD summit, or a time critical diagnosis summit. And basically what that is for any hospital to maintain their stroke, STEMI, or trauma certification, they have to do a certain amount of outreach education. So we're looking at partnering up, possibly us teaching some classes, them teaching some classes, some other physicians teaching classes, and doing it all as a group. So it'll be a really neat community effort. I think this first time we go through it, we're going to kind of keep it in Pettis County, from what I understand, to kind of work out the kinks. But I think it's going to be an annual thing. I think it's really going to be a beneficial thing for our community, as well as all of our providers. So I'm excited to make those plans. We're looking at doing the actual classes, I believe, in October, possibly late October of this year. So fairly short time frame, but we've got all the stuff. It's just working out all the nuts and bolts and getting everybody lined up and scheduled and so forth. We have make sure I'm not blowing an agenda item here. We do have a meeting requested but not set with a couple of people out of the SFCC for regarding the land out there. There's several people, I think, going to attend from their board, at least a couple from their board, maybe one or two from administration. So they're getting all their schedules worked out, and I'm just waiting on a call back from them. We are doing some public presentations next week. The two of them I've got on the top of my list is Friday, we're doing a pachyderm club, and Monday going over to the Rotary, talking about just the state of EMS, maybe some education stuff, giving them just short presentations. Just want to say hello. It's been a while since we've been to any of those civic club meetings, so I'm looking forward to that. Dr. Gustafson will not be here. I don't think he's on the agenda anyhow, just to let you know, he won't be around tonight. Windsor, I think everybody got a copy of their board meeting agenda. If there's any questions on there, I was at the meeting. I can maybe shed some light on it. They're still working out a lot of the kinks with their new tax down there. Their biggest issues was locating all of the businesses in that district that some of them do, some of them don't pay property tax or pay taxes, don't charge sales tax, I should say. So getting that all together, the Amish community is fairly spread out down there. So that's been kind of tough for them, but otherwise they're doing very well getting all that set up. Their new proposed tax rate was voted on and accepted of 0.5207 as far as the sales tax goes. And the estimated revenue, as you can see down there, that is total. So ours out of that number, that 337,037 would be 85% of that. If anybody has a calculator, I do not have the math on this piece, but 85% of that would be our estimate for 2022. Let's see. I've got you got copies of my chicken scratch on there, so you can probably disregard that. Although I will tell you, they have ordered the generator. That should be installed fairly soon. The pizza question mark thing was an old bill that they were paying from EMS week. So there's not any questions on that. There's a little bit of financial information on the back as far as their balance, what they have. So essentially what you're seeing, and I'm no accountant, but basically what you're looking at is a little over years of collections. They kept that first year for building fund primarily to build a new building and do repairs on it down there. So that's where they're sitting as far as their total balance and their collections, as you can see, just like everywhere else, kind of trickle in throughout the year. We're only paid once a year on those collections. So they'll collect them and then pay us at that point, I believe in April, if I'm not mistaken.
Chief, and they've got a full crew down there. How many persons per shift are?
2 trucks, 4 people.
4 people.
Yeah.
Per shift.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yep. Let's see. That's about all I have on Windsor. I did have set up some regular meetings. Bothwell's got some new management over there. They've got a new chief nursing officer, Michelle Loss. I've known Michelle Loss since I've been in EMS. I used to fly with her. So I've met her in the ER back here in Bothwell back in the 90s. And now she's the CNO over there. And she's a great nurse, good contact, but we touch base every now and then, but we made it official and set up a monthly meeting now so we can kind of keep track of where things are as far as our interactions with the hospital. She's obviously over the ER and any of the other departments as it pertains to nursing. So I'm happy to start meeting regularly with her just to compare notes, if nothing else, make sure everything's okay. An update on the AC at Station 2 that has been ordered but not completed as well. It's scheduled but not yet. That is about all I have for open session tonight, gentlemen.
Are there any questions for Eric? If not, we'll move on to the CFO report, which is on page 3 through 18. Be here, Steve. Any explanation for why the sales tax receipts are so high for August this time?
For me, no. Yeah, I know last year generally takes longer than that for it to trickle down from the fair. I think probably we just have a good sales month. I think generally those run about, depending on how the state does, if I'm not mistaken, around 30 to 60 days behind actual. So those numbers would actually be from earlier in the summer. I think
It would have been the same in 2021 and 2020, the same trickle, so look at the difference.
yeah, that's quite a bit of difference.
Yes, there is.
Mhm.
That's why I was asking.
Yeah, I don't have an explanation for it.
Eric, is there anything on page 11 that jumped out at you as being out of the ordinary or unexpected? Other than maybe the ambulance, the new ambulance, I'm sure we knew that was coming. That's where that is.
Yeah. No, nothing that I see that raises in my eyebrows.
Right. If there was a memo next to the, where was it? Oh, it's never mind.
Are there any other questions on the CFO report?
Page 20, we're there yet.
That's part of the bills, outstanding bills.
That's part of the CFO report, agenda.
No. If there are no further questions on the CFO report, I would take a motion to receive the CFO report.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Prepayment of the outstanding bills.
Yeah, my question is, there's no memo next to the McKesson thing. What it is, help me understand what McKesson is. Supplies, medical supplies. Yes, medical supplies. And so what, it's just various supplies that 3 times, is that what that is?
I'm sorry, where are you at?
Well, there's 1862, 80, 676, 14, 7101, total 2609, 95.
Page 20.
Oh, I got you.
Those are expendables, consumables.
Both, yeah, we're looking at, McKesson is who the Mark actually is contracted with. That's Mid-America Regional Council to give, basically a group buying power. And McKesson generally contracts with them, so we get a few items through them that are on that account that we can't get elsewhere. So medications.
Specialty consumables then.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. No hard equipment for those.
And then on Amazon, that statement up there is just, what is it that we buy through Amazon? I'm just curious.
I would have to look at the bill to tell you that, and I don't have the bill in front of me. We get all sorts of stuff through there that it's generally station supplies, coffee,
some uniform.
Yeah, a lot of the uniform stuff comes through there.
Cheaper.
Okay.
It's just, sometimes it's good pricing, sometimes it's not. We'll get it elsewhere, but.
Are we at five number?
Yeah. Business route.
Questions on the bills? If not, I'll take a motion to approve payment of the outstanding bills. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Move on to unfinished business, the alcohol and substance abuse testing policy, page 22 to 24.
It was posted as prescribed in our contract with local. No comments were made on it. My recommendation is approved as it stands. The the red highlighting on 23, however, I believe that's changed the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we changed it to may from will.
Well,
Yes. I believe that's the only issue. In fact, I'm certain that's the only issue. On that page, rather. I think that's the only thing highlighted red, but there was also something that took away on 2.1, page 22, where it gave the examples of those drugs. We just took the examples out. Just to clarify, we are still testing for those. We just took the examples out because of the, the ADA, all kinds of different reasons. As you gentlemen know, we have a statewide vote in November on some of those substances, or one in specific. So yeah, that should be lined through on the illegal drug on page 22, and the will should be the may. So my apologies. I don't know how this one snuck in there, but those were the only changes.
Question.
Sure.
Some prescription medicines and you're not to operate equipment,
Absolutely.
but those are not illegal. Where in here does it prohibit use of equipment under legal drugs?
Schedule 4s can be used legally. This is why we focused on impairment instead of actually testing positive for those drugs. I've made it very clear to the staff that if they are taking those medications, I need to know that in their file before anything happens. This is not
If something did happen, where would you put your finger here to show them it's in the policy that they can't do it?
I have to read through the policy.
because I just glanced at that, it just crossed my mind because
Yeah.
legal drugs is one thing, legal drugs is another, should still be impaired.
Yeah, I think the key here is prohibited acts, use or possession of alcohol or illegal drugs being the operable word there, or being under the influence of alcohol or illegal drugs while performing. So that covers all the illegal stuff.
But what about legal stuff?
Yeah. I'd honestly have to sit here and read through it completely. It's been a while. It's been 60 days since I read through this completely. So. Personnel should be aware that use of some prescriptions or over-the-counter drugs might also affect their ability. Individual responsibility to report such use. So in other words, if they're taking a drug and their doctor says you will not operate heavy machinery equipment and they don't tell me about it, that's a violation of policy because I didn't know about it.
So we're assuming that they're gonna read all the labels and, okay.
Yeah.
So that this would be that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Sorry, I didn't have that right off the tip of my tongue.
That's all right. I just want to make sure that you are comfortable with enforcing that scenario.
When looking at this policy initial, it's like many of our policies, kind of an amalgamation of several different. We tried to take the best parts of every policy and put them in dollars. Yeah.
Are there any other questions on the policy?
I should probably mention, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that our attorney did look at that before. It's unfortunate, yes.
If not, I'd take a motion to approve that with those two changes.
So moved.
Could we have a second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. We have no new business, so we'll move on and take a motion to enter closed session pursuant of RSMO 610.021, section 1.
So moved.
Have a second. All in favor, and